Hey guys, and welcome to a bit of a discussion video on the new Void. Has it actually changed anything? Now, as you can see in the footage behind, I'm still working on the former for Necros Prime, so let's talk a bit more on a level. I have to admit, I was excited to test the new Void system to see whether it's alleviated the grind and made it genuinely easier to get the primes. Now, the point of the new Void, it was to alleviate what we called Void fatigue, running the same mission over and over again for a tiny chance at the part you need. To give it its credit, this new Void system, it has actually done that to a certain extent. The fact that you can run any Void Relic on any available node is amazing. If you don't want to do survival, then don't. If the node you need isn't a game mode you enjoy, wait an hour or two and then run the next one. But is it as simple as that? Well, not really, no, because previously between updates you could farm the keys you needed to prepare for the next prime. But that's simply not the case anymore. Yes, you can stack up your syndicate medallions and then open a ton of void packs on release day. That was actually fairly effective. But if you haven't done that, then how do you get the relics? Well, then you're back to rotation B and C of endless missions again, I'm afraid. This is where the whole thing comes crashing down again. Has the new system realistically lessened the frustrations of people that felt forced constantly into endless missions? And the answer is no, it hasn't. All that's happened, honestly, is that the rotation grind has gone from a single tile set in the Void to a couple of different tile sets on the star map. You are still hoping that the rotation gives you something you need, and that is a 1 in 8 chance of being the right relic for a start, plus the star map rewards are so bloated with random crap that shouldn't be there, it's unreal. Take for example, you've got the Void Interception on Mithra. I ran a couple of runs with people on launch day. Both of the rotation A rewards were Vitality. Yep, that's right, Vitality. Sorry, but if you've managed to get all the way from your tutorial to running the Void tile sets without just not using Vitality, but also not managing to pick one up on your travels, then bloody hell you've done well. But stuff like that bloating the rotations makes this worse than the old Void grind. At least with that you got prime parts to turn into Ducats, core packs, or even Former, instead of a Vitality mod worth 5 endo. Now, the way that the Void Relics are farmed, that needs to be changed and fairly fast, because that's just as frustrating as it was in the old system. When you don't get that prime part you need, at least then you had the extra keys that you spent the last 3 months gathering together to be able to run when the new prime thing comes out, rather than the sort of hand-to-mouth way that you run one key, hope you get what you want, if not, time to do another 20 waves or something in the vague hope you get what you need in terms of another relic. And that brings me on to the Void Traces. To be honest, for a start, the Void Traces needs to stop having such insane fluctuation. You can get anything from 6 to 30 traces at a time, not including boosters or any of that fun, wonderful stuff. This is annoying for sure, but not necessarily the problem. The problem is that the system promotes frustration. The theory of the system is that you can use Void Traces to upgrade the relic to make it a higher chance to drop those rarer parts. But from the 1500 roughly Void Traces that I used, so that's 15 Radiant Keys, we got one single uncommon item out of it, out of all 15 of those keys. And that was only my Radiant Keys. That doesn't include the other Radiant Keys in my groups. I know RNG is always going to be a thing, but the impression that you get from the UI is that it's a vastly improved drop rate from data mining. We do know that it does go from 2% in chance of a drop on the rare to 10% chance. But should it be the case that it needs to be data mined for us to know what the percentages are? Instead, we get an arbitrary UI element that really doesn't give you the full story. When you look at the UI element, if you believe that little moving bar, it gives you literally no idea of how much the chances have just improved. I think it's about time that, honestly, just come clean and give us the percentage weighting. It would lead to a lot less frustration. It just lays it out for players to know where they stand. Plus, not only that, actually give them some genuine feedback that their Void Traces do something other than move an arbitrary line on a UI element. Don't get me wrong. I don't actually hate the new Void that much, but I find the premise of it fundamentally flawed. I genuinely thought the grind for the specific parts was going to be reduced. Maybe a bit of the frustration of the Void for that has come from the fact that maybe I was slightly naive in believing this. I think that if you could farm the relics before the prime comes out, maybe the grind would be reduced. but it's all realistically done with the new relics not being farmable in advance. All it's done is shift the grind from rotation C of Tower 3 survival to rotation C of random defense number 1, random defense number 2, survival number 1, and then focused it all into a short time window rather than playing endless missions when you felt like it over the course of the 3 months between primes. The rest is up to RNG, quite frankly. 1,500 void traces for one uncommon part is pretty ridiculous, but I know that's literally down to RNG. Maybe all of this is a super master plan to get people farming the syndicate missions for medallions during the time between the primes, since that genuinely was a very effective way of getting those void relics on the launch date. I got probably half of my parts that way, but personally I would spread the relics out throughout the star chart a bit. Give options of where you can farm, whether it be survival, defense, or even spy, excavation, exterminate, anything like that. Give options. Not only does it spread out the rewards, but it also spreads people out around the star map, populating more of the missions that are currently unused. Even with Star Map 2.0, we've still got loads of tiles, loads of nodes that are just completely unused. Plus it allows you to play game modes that you actually enjoy, instead of being railroaded into content that you might not possibly like. I know a lot of this sounds like me being pissed off with terrible RNG, but that for me is nothing new. I never get good RNG. What's even more frustrating though is how close this system is to being fantastic in my opinion. With a few decisions recently, for example the void relics not being farmable, that's taken away from that a little bit. This is the first prime that we've been able to farm with the new system, so we've not had a chance to experience all of this yet, really. So I feel that I should provide some feedback on it, and I would be interested to see what your feedback is in the comments below. Whether you think I've been unrealistic in my expectations, or whether you think I'm just wrong on some of these points. I look forward to reading your comments for sure. As always, back to former Necros, and I shall see you in the next video.